Chapter 12, Out of the Shadows. The next morning, Rory left home early so that he could stop by the hospital before he started his office appointments. He had called and checked on Jerry last night. The nurses said she was still not responding to them. Her doctor had hoped to release her to go home today, but wanted some counseling support available to her. Rory pushed through the hospital's front double doors and strode down the hall to the elevator. As he rode to the third floor, he thought about this young woman. What was it about her that felt so familiar? Technically, she was not his patient, but he knew that he would be there for her. The elevator doors opened. As he turned to walk down the hall, a voice inside his head screamed, "Get to her room, get there now." The voice's urging was so shocking that for a second he was stunned. Then he started to run down the hall, aware that others were looking at him, although this had never occurred to him before, and running in the hospital would be viewed as bizarre. He did not care. He rounded the corner and almost ran into a tall, blond man coming out of Jerry's room. Rory felt a blow from some unseen hand blast into his stomach. The old vision flared in his mind. The young man ducked into the stairs, and Rory sprinted into room 316. Jerry was lying, curled up in bed, her arms wrapped around her knees, her sobs muffled by the blanket. Rory slowed his pace and sat in the chair by her bed. "I'm here," he whispered. She made no reply, and he merely sat. He touched her hands, and it was as if her pain cried itself through his body. Despite himself, Rory's presence penetrated Jerry's wall. She heard his voice and raised her eyes to his. As their eyes met, she knew that right now, at this moment, she did not want to be alone with her pain. She wanted to be in the safety that this man radiated. Jerry reached for him and pulled him, leaning into his arms. As his strength enfolded her, she knew she was home. Rory held her for a time that was beyond this moment, beyond this rape. It reached back to a woman's limp body, to loss and to grief. Rory was conflicted. His heart told him to let her be in the safety of his arms, and his professional mind warned of its danger. Rory's heart won, and he held her. Danger flared and asked if he was ready for what more this woman would crack open. Then he moved her into a space on the bed and listened as she recounted the events of the morning. The man who had raped her had suddenly appeared in her room. Dean was his name. She told Rory of his threats and his assurance that he could find her no matter where she was. He could feel hatred tinging his every word, and she shook with fear. "Jerry, there's nothing this man can do to you. There are laws, and I'm here. He will never hurt you again." He lifted their hands and gently kissed her fingers. A shock went through both of them. What was he doing? From where did that response come? Why was it so natural, so familiar? Rory cleared his throat. "I want you to listen to me." He held her eyes with his. "I am here, and I am not going away. Do you hear what I'm saying?" Jerry nodded her head. "Are you ready to talk to the police?" "If you are, I could call my friend Sergeant Palmer." "Would you stay while he is here?" she asked. "Yes," said Roy. "I wouldn't have it any other way." "Then I am ready," she whispered. After staying with Jerry for the significant part of the morning as Sergeant Palmer asked questions, Rory went to his office. He was committed to her. Nothing would move him away, and it made no sense in his logical, trained mind. When his last client had left, Rory drove to the center. After eating and visiting with the staff members, he went to his office to meet with Pam. He made a quick call to assure Jerry and was ready when Pam knocked on his door. "Come on in," he called. She came in looking refreshed, and she settled into the soft, overstuffed chair. "Are you ready for more?" Pam asked with a smile. Rory returned her smile and nodded. Pam shifted her body, seeming to scan the wall as she sorted her thoughts. Then she took a breath and continued her story. One day, about 2.5 years ago, I woke to the despair of another day alone. I was at a shelter. You can't rest much in shelters. You always have to be on guard to protect your bundle and even your life. All the night noises, snoring nightmares, constant movements of other people make it hard to sleep. Then you have to be up at 5 in the morning and out on the streets by 6:30 with another day that was just like the one before. You panhandle or pretend to keep busy doing nothing. I was so discouraged that morning. I picked up my bundle and headed out the door. It wasn't just my existence that depressed me, but the craziness of what I saw everywhere. The threads of my life were all woven together in such an ugly picture. I asked myself, who put the threads together so unfairly for some and so magnificently for others? Was it God? Was it parents? Was it the system? And some of us just not worthy? I walked to a spot by a freeway off-ramp, a place where I could be alone. I didn't think God would help me, but I cried out to Shadow, please, please help me understand the craziness of this life. Why has this happened to me? Why me? How can I get out of here? I was angry, I was sad, I was powerless to change anything, but I couldn't go on like this. I sat on my bundle of possessions and cried until there were no more tears. I may even have slept. Then I sensed words from Shadow. Dear one, pick up your bundle and walk over to the park. I opened my eyes and looked around. Then I heard again, walk over to the park. I stood and picked up all I owned in this world and walked the 7 blocks to a park. As I got to the edge of the grass, I heard, go and sit under the large oak tree. I walked to the far corner of the city park. I settled myself on the grass, leaned against the trunk of this magnificent oak, and closed my eyes. Almost immediately, I felt the most glorious feeling sweep over me. It was like I was a wet canvas, and a paintbrush dipped in blue watercolor spread across my head. The paint slowly moved down my body, and then the next stroke came, and the next. I cried. I felt a joy and a love I hadn't known was possible. I kept whispering, thank you, thank you. Then I heard, this is what life is about. I wept. I hadn't known anything could be so wonderful. My physical body was bursting with warmth and lightness. I asked, how do I keep this feeling? How do I live from this amazing place? I didn't know this was possible. I thought about some of my friends on the street. How would they act if they felt this love and safety? I let my imagination take over, and I saw their lives unfold like stories before my eyes. I imagined them with this energy of lightness flowing through them. Brightness appeared in their eyes. Experiences of respect and opportunity came to them. Joy in living opened their mind to options they had not thought possible. With my imagination, I put other people into that space of love and warmth. The hardest one to place there was the man whom I had called Dad. But I did. And the changes I saw in him were instantaneous, effortless, and monumental. Then I wondered, Why had I not known or felt this energy before? Why are humans not allowing generosity, caring, and joy to be the point from which their actions and experiences flow? What is that? And that is when the first of my dreams or visions came. I saw myself, not as I look now. I stood in front of a large gathering of men and women. My hair was copper long and flowed over a forest green cloak. I seemed to move without effort. I was anxious, very anxious, on the verge of panic. I sensed that some great danger loomed, and I was sharing my concern with this group. I asked Shadow what was happening. Shadow answered, "This is a situation that occurred just before your first birth into a physical bodysuit. It is an experience you had eons ago. There was a plan in place for volunteers from various divine families to birth into Earth families. The intention was to spark awake the consciousness of humanity, which had been dulled and entrapped. You were one of those volunteers. The divine families in the galactic world regions still held the memories of the Earth's original plan. Because of the intentionally created density around the planet, the memory of the first volunteers to Earth had dulled. With no remembrance of the original mission, Earth's energy increased with contamination and density. Her inhabitants were less alive, more fearful, while the mission receded into the shadows. I said to Shadow, the mission into the shadows? Fear, the dullness, the sense of dense burdens. That sounds like what I saw every day on the street. Shadow continued, you are right. Among the first volunteers to enter their bodysuits was Myra, a close friend of yours. She realized that something was very wrong. Shortly after her birth, she called to you and asked that you check out the systems in her physical bodysuit. As you did, you found extensive problems. Circuitry within the body had been manipulated. An overlay at the brainstem allowed outside society's various forms of control. You realized that these re-engineered body blueprints locked humanity into slave existence. You found that the circuitry path for spiritual maturation was missing. The power centers disconnected. And all of that is what you're reporting to the council. You realized that there was no way that this mission could succeed. Just a moment, said Rory. I want to think about that idea. He sat and thought about some of his clients. He recalled those who had tried so hard. There were many with inappropriate behaviors, ways of thinking that sabotaged life. Some had stunted maturation that social systems assumed were caused by early childhood injuries. And some clients had little or no emotional response at all. In treatment, one situation would be uncovered, addressed, desensitized, and lead to another, and then another. There seemed to be a mushrooming effect. It took daily, sometimes moment by moment effort to stay focused on health. For some, it was too much. Time and again, he had looked for more information, more skills to break what seemed to be impossible cycles. What if what he saw was caused by crippled systems in the physical body? He wanted to hear more. Rory nodded. Pam spoke. It was during that conversation that I realized that the name I had assigned my unseen friend, Shadow, was perfect. He was helping me to remember what had been hidden and lost. Shadow continued with his explanation to me. You knew that these malfunctioning systems would make it impossible for the volunteers to succeed. In these bodies, they were crippled, locked into a matrix of domination, usury, and even death. Your soul companion and some of your dearest friends were already in the earth in those physical bodies, and that's why you are so concerned. Pam continued. I saw a woman standing in front of that gathering, and instantly I slipped into that body. I was her. I heard someone speak. I knew it was Sila, the president of the council. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We knew that there was crippling in the bodysuits, Sila said. Then why was this mission permitted? I asked her. It was intended that the energies of the mission participants would override the functions of the physical body systems. That would have been the easier way. That is not happening, I responded to her. However, we did have a backup plan, Sila continued. As you know, there are highly evolved and prepared beings who have volunteered for this birthing plan. They know that the Earth mission is the hope of the galactic family. Unless we identify and remove all traces of the outsiders with their deceit and entrapment world, our families are doomed. There are many considerations for each segment of the mission of this new planet. 2 stipulations were to assure laws that the individual choice dominated. And the second is the law that stipulates that imprints in the energy fields will broadcast their imprinted message, causing energy to slow and manifest. Then I saw another member of the Galactic Council stand to speak. It is also assured that those mission ones are guided and watched over. However, they are at free choice to say yes, no, or to be neutral for a time. Eventually, they will remember and know that something is wrong. As they wake up and acknowledge that fear, violence, greed, and domination are not the reflections of their divinity, they will reach for answers. Waking up, they will take back their lives and begin making decisions that will enable them to shake off old control patterns. As they demand help for themselves, they will receive answers and great spiritual support. Until then, we will continue to stabilize the fields of energy around the earth. Rory thought of those clients who came to him. He had seen that those who were able to admit that they had a problem and ask for help began to find answers. Pain often forced them out of their denial, their victimhood, and their refusal to see that life was not okay. It was difficult to help someone who would not or could not see problems. No matter how clearly others saw the need, the person had to decide. He brought his attention back to Pam. Then I asked Shadow about the systems in my body. I asked, are my systems correctly connected? I felt a new presence, a very loving woman. She whispered, calling me Dana. Dana, once you enter the physical bodysuit, your systems will need corrections, and the old crippled energy imprints will need to be transformed. In every physical body, systems reflect the trauma experienced and stored within the psyche of humanity, beginning with the fall thousands of years ago. So much is ignored in Earth society. Abuse or neglect, whether it is real or imagined, will cause disruptions. That is true in all Earth beings. Broken bones, broken spirits, broken dreams, broken brains. I heard a new voice. Pam, it is Sila here. Your increasing pain has pushed you to look for more, to wake up, to ask for help. It is critical that the mission you were assigned by this council begins. Now is the time for the change it was to bring. My mission? I ask. Yes, there is so much of the purpose and history of the Earth mission that has been lost and even intentionally hidden. You are tenacious and courageous enough to dream awake the bones of the many aspects of the original Earth mission, to lessen the density of denial and awaken others to their Earth assignment. You will not stop asking questions until you restore the truth of our galactic family. We need you there. That is why that no matter how much you wanted off the planet, you could not leave. We thank you and salute you for your courage. I sat on the grass and cried. There seemed to be hope for me, maybe hope for this planet. All that I could think to say was, I'm willing. In a city far from where Pam told Rory her story, Bob felt drawn to the mountains. From as far back as he could remember, he had loved nature. He and nature seemed linked at his first breath on the planet. As he drove, stories of those who predicted the planet's destruction ran through his mind. There had been many over the years: the punishment of God, tyranny and greed in nations, cities falling into the sea, mountains crushed, deserts rising, the end of life, Earth being destroyed. Love of Gaia, awe at her beauty, reverence for her creations, and appreciation for her patience swelled his heart. As a child, he had heard the trees. They told of community, of safety, and of love. The songs of the backyard birds nurtured his soul. He never questioned their calming voices. As he grew older, he heard the stories about Earth's end, its destruction followed by peace. He accepted the plan. Armageddon was the way life would unfold, he assumed. It wasn't until recently that he questioned the need to destroy something that was so perfect and beautiful. By now, he had grown to understand the fantastic gifts of healing and wisdom that the earth holds. The forests and meadows, the peaks and valleys, the plants and animals were not incidental to life, they were life. Ending wars and killings, that made sense. Stopping abuse and hatred, that Bob would support. But destroying his mother, the earth, and her gifts, that was crazy. And he began to demand a change in the plan, whatever the plan was. As he sat by the lake this morning, the sun played hide and seek with the billowy clouds. Bob remembered the day he had first decided to take action. He had gone off by himself, backpacked into a pristine field surrounding a lake. He came to the meadow with a very troubled heart. Newspaper, TV, and even a friend at work were talking about the latest concern, the destructive violence, the end of the planet. He had stood by the lake and faced toward the sun. It seemed as though the strength from unseen forces flowed upward into his feet, anchoring him solidly to Mother Earth. The energy filled him and coursed upward through his upstretched arms and out his fingertips. He spun slowly in a circle, arms outstretched, and cried out to the sun, the giver of life. I do not accept the idea of Earth's end. I will not let go of my mother, the earth. I will not allow the destruction and abuse of her creations. With whatever authority I have, I call for an end to that which is truly false and endangering the dishonesty and fear-based behaviors among humankind. He cried out from a deep space within. I do not accept the idea of Earth's end. That which is true and beautiful and life-enriching will be protected and maintained. He had felt like a pole of energy, a vortex. Slowly he moved, anchored from some unknown core place, and spoke words that amazed him. Bob saw a vision of the earth lifting, lighter, cleansed, and sparkling in the morning sun. He felt an overwhelming love flow and fill his body. His heart opened and sang. He cried tears of joy, and voices he had sensed but never heard came. Thank you. From that time on, Bob knew that the Earth's choice was to birth into more life and love and joy. He knew and held that vision with her and for her with all the power and strength he had. On this weekend trip into the mountains, he felt the importance of, again, commanding and anchoring the vision for the planet. It was time for those on mission for her to wake up, to remember the original purpose of the earth, and to ignite their assignments. A meditation opened for him, and he followed the directions. Let your consciousness drift back in time. Sense the dimensions of clear light. Feel the peace, the love, the contentment, and the oneness. See the earth, a sphere within greater light. Imagine her connection to unlimited source. See the earth, a sphere, and see the joy existing and filling this sphere. Boundaries surround the earth and protect the flow of untainted universal energy. Nothing can diminish her divine purpose. Mother Earth secures her space in complete harmony and love. All elements, earth, fire, water, air, minerals, plants, animals of all nature, are freely available to bring good for all into the web of life. Life flows with honor and balance. All earth lifetimes reflect her wholeness. All contrary energy has been transmuted into light or removed to their place of origin. With that meditation firmly broadcast, Bob sat down and let the sense of love continue to fill and lift him.